Good evening. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. Name's Jim. Net controller for this evening's Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club, TechNet. We now take check-ins. Anyone wishing to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call now.
Kilo Echo 0, Uniform Foxtrot Delta, Scott and Windsor.
This is Kilo Echo 0, Lima, Charlie, Kilo, the other Mike from Windsor.
Kilo 0 Alpha Romeo Delta and mobile near Fort Lupton.
Kilo 0 Tango November Papa, TJ from Windsor.
This is Kilo 1 Delta Echo Golf, Mike from Platteville.
Kilo 0 Alpha Romeo Delta and mobile.
Kilo Foxtrot 4 Delta Uniform Sierra, KF4 DUS, Horsetooth Mike.
Kilo Alpha Echo Charlie Echo Tango, Ralph, Fort Collins Mobile. This is November 0 Echo Mike Papa, Greg in Fort Collins with Debbie, Kilo 0 Delta Bravo Echo.
Okay, we got KE0 UFD, KE0 LCK, K0 ARD, K0 TNP, K1 DEG, KF4 DUS, N0 EMP, K0 DBE. I did miss one in there. I believe it was KE0 ECA. You come back with your call sign and name, please.
Could it have been KE0LCK?
No, I got you in there, Mike. There was one just before Greg that I didn't get the call sign. It was either Kilo Alpha or Kilo Echo.
Kilo Alpha 0 Charlie Echo Tango, Ralph, Fort Collins.
Thank you for that. KE0 CET. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet? Please call now.
Alpha Echo 0, Charlie Trot, Ben, Fort Collins. This is Kilo 0, Papa Romeo Bravo, with Kilo 0, Lima Alpha Oscar, Phil and Luann in Loveland.
Okay, first I'll acknowledge AE0CF, K0PRB, K0LAO. Last station that tried calling, you had a lot of static. I don't know if you can try bumping your power up or moving a little bit to get into the repeater. Try again, please. Here, nothing. We'll take more check-ins. Anyone wanting to check in to tonight's TechNet, please call now.
Ski 0, Alpha Sierra Papa, W0ASP. Carry inverted.
Okay, I got W0ASP. And we will take check-ins anytime during the net if you want to check in. We'll start off the TechNet by seeing if anyone has any questions on anything they've been trying to figure out. I know we do have one. Mike asked on K1DEG, asked for his brother on the ClubNet last week, looking for someone that might have any desoldering equipment for a small circuit board. He has a small board that the antenna wire came off of and he needed to desolder it to make a repair on it. Anyone have anything or able to help out?
1 DEG correction.
DEG, go ahead with your correction.
It's a surface mount soldering equipment. He has a connector that has about 10 pins in it in a line that he has to heat all up at one time. So he needs a, he's saying a surface mount desoldering tool is what he's needing. We've got ideas on how to do it, but we would like to find the proper equipment. K1DEG.
Sierra ASP.
ASP, Terry, go ahead.
A hot air soldering gun, if you will, a soldering station that would probably do the job, presuming the pins are maybe about an inch long in total, and also some of the chip quick solder, that's little tiny balls of solder that are suspended in flux, and I've used that very successfully in surface mount device rework.
And Terry, I do appreciate that. My brother said the other night, we was talking about it here on the repeater. He said he has no experience with that type of equipment. If it is possible, and this is just, I'm pulling strings here, if it is possible that he can bring it to you, could you assist him on that, seeing as how you have more experiences with it than he does?
Roger that, Mike. I also have a binocular microscope to do the surface work under, so you can see what's going on.
Alright, well, I told him about the net, and he hopefully is listening on Echolink, but don't really know. But if not, I will relay the information. I'll let him know to get in touch with you when he gets back in town.
after that, note that I will not be around for the month of June. So if you want it done, it has to be done in the next couple weeks.
Be that, and he should be coming home in the next couple of days. He's up in North Dakota working. K1DEG, back to net control. Thank you much, Terry, and everybody else.
Thank you. Looks like you're going in the right direction with that, Mike. Anyone have any questions for the net? Something they've been wanting to know or wanting to try on the technical aspect of amateur radio?
CK?
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KE0LCK. I was recently made aware of one of the bands that we're allowed to use, but you don't hear too much about it. It's 60 meter, 5 megahertz. And I was wondering if anybody that's listening perhaps has used it and what type of equipment they were using to do it effectively.
N0 EMP.
EMP, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I put up a simple dipole horizontal. I think at 60 meters, I think it was 45 feet on each leg. 40, 45 feet, somewhere like that. And had a dipole up at about 30 feet. It's one of the bands that will work on NVIS, which is why I was trying it. And there were some, there was a net in Utah. I was able to talk to them and got into Minnesota once. There's not a lot of activity there. It's channelized. There's 5 channels, I think it is, and one of the channels, it seems like there's always a JT65 traffic on it, and 0 EMP.
Question, Greg, this is LCK. Did you have the dipole flat, or was it in a NVIS type V, inverted V configuration?
It was flat, horizontal, but only about 30 feet off the ground, so it was doing NVIS. Of course, the Minnesota contact was not NVIS, but you get the idea.
Okay, thank you very much. KE0LCK, back to net.
That's a good question, and one I've wanted to try sometime. I know Greg was saying is 5 channels. I'm looking at the amateur radio band plan right now, and it shows 5 individual frequencies for upper sideband, and then 5 separate frequencies for CW and digital that are off. So it's a total of 10, with 5 being for USB and 5 being for CW and digital. 100 watt maximum limit on power for the 60 meter band. Anyone else have any questions or comments to add to the last question on 60 meters?
EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
So there's actually only 5 channels, but they're described differently. They're USB, unless you're doing CW. Everything else is USB. But they can either describe the frequency as the center of a voice band that's like 2.4 kilohertz wide, or they can describe it as the edge of the frequency for digital. But they're actually the same 5 channels, and we share that band with the military, and they are watching it very carefully, and if you're off frequency a little bit, they'll jump on you. So you want to be very careful that you're right on the channel. Some newer radios have presets built in for the channels. Otherwise, if you're running a radio that's free tuning through there, you have to be sure you're right on the channel and 0 EMP.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Greg. I just started reading the ultra fine print that's underneath it, and it does explain that a little bit better. I know the one radio I have the Yaesu, the 991A, which does have all the 60 meter preset, and it won't allow you to tune to any other frequency besides what is preset in them. Does anyone else have any questions for the TechNet this evening? Please call now.
KA0CET.
Ralph, go ahead.
I was thinking about putting the NOAA channels frequencies into the my portable, just to monitor, of course. Does anybody see any downside to that, or any concern? Kind of not a transmit mode, obviously, but just to receive, just as a convenience when you're avoid carrying another device with you.
I don't see any band, but with the wide receive on most radios now, they're either pre-programmed in or allow you to program in for listening purposes only. You can even get into monitoring HF frequencies with some dual band radios. Anyone have anything they want to add to that?
DUS.
Horsetooth Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KF4DUS. As a precaution, on those channels that you might put it in, say your Bofang or your TYT or whatever, put the output power as the lowest power you could possibly do, and don't try to look up a tone on it, so don't put a tone on it, even if you do find it. That way you won't run into the chance of accidentally keying up on it, at least not on the main transmitter. That would be my suggestion. Put on very low power, and don't put a tone on it, even if you know what it is. KO4DUS back to that.
Question about programming then, KA0CET.
Go ahead, Ralph.
So on the Asian portable in the Chirp application, I haven't used it a great deal yet, but can you set the mobile to low power in Chirp, so that and obviously leave out the tone squelch? That's a good idea. But can you set low power with Chirp, or is that somewhere else? KA0CET.
You can, with most programming software, in fact I'm pretty sure all programming software will allow you to set the default power level. A lot of them will also allow you to check a box that will make it a receive-only frequency, meaning it won't even recognize if you do accidentally push the talk button.
Thanks for that. I've got to do some reprogramming for an event this weekend, and so I will have a look at that application. That's a great idea. I didn't realize you could select receive only, KA0CEP.
Yeah, like I said, that's what I know. All the programming software I use, even on Chirp, when I would program Bofang radios, it would allow me to select the box to make it a receive only. It blocks the transmittability for that preset. Anyone else have any other questions for the TechNet? If not, we can move on to a set topic. There ain't nothing. I've been thinking of different topics and figured something that would appeal for a lot of newer hams. I know there's been a lot of people taking the test lately and getting newly licensed. DIY projects, mainly types of DIY antennas, how to calculate antenna length, and different types of antennas. Anyone have any questions they want to start out with as far as building your own antenna? A lot of it can be done fairly inexpensive and easy for a beginner or someone just looking to do something on a budget.
A couple topics I was asked about is stealth antennas for restrictions, homeowner restrictions, homeowner HOA restrictions, and also publications that cater to home-built antennas or homemade antennas. So.
I know as far as home-built antennas, DIY antennas, stealth style antennas, there's a lot of stuff out there. I know there's guys that will do videos and write-ups on converting their downspouts for their gutters into antennas. A lot of people opt for going for antennas that are inside the attic. Well, it's not always optimal because of being inside a building. It does offer fairly good propagation on HF bands, even on 2-meter and VHF and UHF. Anyone have any ideas for the stealth style antenna for dealing with HOAs?
N0EMP.
EMP, Greg, go ahead.
As far as another part of his question, that was being about publications, ARRL has a number of antenna books. Probably their most inclusive one is the ARRL antenna book, and I think they come out with a new one every year or two with different projects, but a lot of the same theory and a lot of the same basic antennas are in every issue. Ham Radio Outlet carries it along with most of the other ARRL antenna books, and ARRL has one on stealth antennas, they have one on wire antennas, they have the big antenna book that's got sections on everything. So that's a really good resource as far as books go, and Zero EMP.
Definitely the ARRL handbooks and publications are always a good reference point. I know another thing, if you do go to the ARRL website and subscribe, you can get their QST magazine. Every month there's usually something in it. Quite often for different types of antenna builds people are doing. A lot of them are stealth antennas that people put in their attics, under the eave of a house or along the ridge line of a house. You know, a lot of people try running dipoles right off the ridge line. It's fairly hidden and not very noticeable. When you get into them types of antennas, they're not as optimal as a freestanding antenna out in the field, but they do work and you can get out with them. That answer your question?
Lots of food for thought there, and another concern is just testing to make sure that the antenna design doesn't damage radio, and I know that's going to require some test equipment. But that's a little further down the road. But yeah, it sounds like a good place to get started with the ARRL book.
Yeah, anytime building your own antenna, you always want to make sure you check the SWR before you try transmitting. Even though a lot of radios do have built-in safety features that won't allow you to transmit if the SWR is too high, but you can still take chances. Like I said, there's all kinds of test equipment and a lot of people willing to help. Test equipment can start to get expensive. I'll let the repeater reset. One thing I have people that ask me all the time how to calculate the length of a wire or element for building an antenna. There's some simple calculations that you can remember for figuring out the length of an antenna. Most common for a dipole, which would be a half wavelength, you take 468 and divide it by the frequency in megahertz that you want. That'll give you the overall length of the dipole. Right? So for example, if you have 80 meter dipole and you want to tune it to roughly 3.8 megahertz, you take the 3.8 megahertz divided by 468 gives you 123.16 feet overall. And if you, for a center fed dipole, you divide that by 2, gives you just over 61.5 feet for each leg, or just over 122 feet total length, 123 feet total length for your wire dipole for 80 meters. So for the half wavelength, 468 divided by the frequency of megahertz. Quarter wavelength is 234 divided by the frequency of megahertz. And if you have a lot of room and want to do a full wave loop, usually about 1005 divided by the frequency of megahertz. Obviously, if you start getting into the lower bands, 20 meter, you'll end up with a half wavelength dipole that's just over 32 feet in length, or 16 feet per leg for center fed dipole. Anyone have any questions, comments, or anything they want to add to calculating length of a antenna wire?
Zero ASP with a comment.
ASP, Terry, go ahead.
Making your own antennas, and you're trying to figure out, how they all work. An antenna analyzer is your best friend, and nowadays you can get them for in the $50 range. That'll work on the HF frequencies. So the cost of a halfway decent antenna analyzer is not as big as it used to be 10 years ago.
Yes, that is correct. You can find them cheap, or a lot cheaper than they used to be. Years ago when I bought my the antenna analyzer, it was probably around $600-700. So they've come down quite a bit in the recent years. Anyone have any questions or comments in regards to building your own antennas?
E0CF.
E0CF, Ben, go ahead.
Well, general idea is to, when you make an antenna, you want to use wire a little bit longer so you don't have to cut. I'm just curious if anyone had to end up splicing their antennas to make it longer, if it was necessary, and how bad really is it, and what kind of things can you do, like what types of splice, how to make the splice in order to make sure that it works exactly as how you would it to go. Say E0CF.
I personally have not had to splice anything together for antenna wire. I've always cut them longer, then cut it down to tune it to the frequency I want and get it close, and then just use the antenna tuner to finish once I get it down to at least 2-to-1 match or close to that. Anyone have any tips or tricks if you do have to splice a piece section of wire on to make your antenna wire longer? Nothing. I would imagine if you do have to splice a section of wire on, it's probably not going to be very much unless you're trying to go to a different band. I'd imagine you would want to make sure the wires are twisted together good, and then solder them to make sure that the connection cannot come apart. That would be my best guess on the right way to do it. Like I said, I've never had to do it, so I'm not 100% sure.
Alrighty, well, yeah, just curious. Haven't done any of this yet, but just throwing out some theoretical and curiosity in case something does end up requiring a splice. Back to that, this is a easier stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And with knowing it's bound to happen sometime, I might actually take a section of wire and solder two together just to see if what it does change, if anything, and what type of the resistance increases or anything in the wire, just as a kind of self-test to see what happens when that occurs.
You expose the connectors to the elements, but I might be tempted to terminate the antenna with a connector and put a bullet in there, and then another connector. You'd have an insertion loss, but if you did a good job on the connectors, it'd be pretty low. K80CET.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different way to try it. I know some of the multi-band dipoles you can get do that to where it has the center and everything with the balun, and you plug different length wires in for different bands that you obviously have to change if you want to switch bands, but they do have the bullet style connector. You just clip them in and use that band, and then if you want to change bands, you just pull them wires off and put the other different length wires on, so that's all definitely an option there also.
Your ASP with a comment?
Terry, go ahead with your comment.
Successfully used two different kinds of technologies for extending wires. One are split bolts. These are copper bolts that will allow you to put two wires in and tighten them down, and always best to use some kind of antioxidant compound in between there if it's going to be outside. Of course it is. And another one are these hourglass or binocular-shaped swage clips that are used for terminating, making loops in wire. And these can be used as well. Of course, you need the crimping tool. And, of course, antioxidant is always recommended. W0ASP back to net.
EMP.
Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, net controller for this evening's TechNet. EMP, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I probably couldn't describe it verbally over the radio, but go to the Wikipedia article about the Western Union Splice. Western Union Splice, also known as a lineman's splice. And do that and then solder it, and you're going to be good. If you want a permanent splice, do that and 0 EMP.
Thank you for that. I'll be looking that up later. The Western Union Splice. on that, Ben?
Oh yeah, just curious. Versus a uncut wire and then a spliced wire. How much of a impedance difference it's going to cause in that piece of wire? And I suppose it will be frequency dependent too, and how big the splice is. Maybe it's better to minimize the splice, minimize the diameter of the splice, stuff like that. Back to say easy yourself.
I doubt that you could detect the difference outside of a laboratory under very controlled conditions, especially on HF with this Western Union splice, because it's inline and 0 EMP.
W2MIC, late check-in.
W2MIC. Mark, have you been listening? Want to add anything to this?
I did hear Ben's question and the discussion of the Western Union splice. Ben, the answer is undetectable. There's been a lot of research done on this at various frequencies over the years. I've read several monographs. It's down in the hundredths of an ohm kind of a category.
Okay, cool. I was wondering how much of a difference it would be. Maybe it would be okay if I have to splice, go ahead and splice. Ideally, you don't have to. Just make sure it's cut longer than necessary. Well, that's good. Easier stuff.
Thank you for that addition. I said I've never had to do it and never really looked into it very much. But I know one question I've been trying to find information on for myself, building a lot of HF antennas and trying different things, is when building a balun. I know some places use just simple PVC to wrap the wire around, and other guys say to use a ferrite ring. And what's other people's thoughts on what should be used to build a better 4-to-1 or 9-to-1 balun?
W0ASP.
No comment?
There is a double there with Terry and Ben. We'll go with Terry first. Go ahead.
Well, you're talking about a balun wrapping coax around a piece of PVC is simply an impedance choke to prevent non-differential currents or common mode currents from coming back down the coax. This does not make any impedance transformation. If you want to go from 50 ohms to anything other than 50 ohms, you require a transformer, and that requires a magnetic core.
Okay, that's one thing I've recently been reading on different things. Starting to have bought some baluns and that, but decided on start building my own and looking into what all is needed, and figured asking here would give me a little better explanation than a lot of the stuff you find on the internet. Ben, go with your comment.
About about the same, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, it depends on how much how much inductance is the correct word that you need. The main reason for using the ferrite is that you get a lot more, but you have to deal with losses as well in order to it's just losses come. Ideally we can use air cores whenever we can, which is usually what the PVC is doing. But sometimes you need a impossibly large structure in order to get the inductance needed to match the E0CF.
Definitely something I'd be doing a lot more reading and research on before I attempt doing it. But I guess that's just something to bring up and stuff that can be a DIY project for people that want to get a little bit more involved with it. Anyone else have any questions, comments, or stuff they've been trying to figure out on their own? Call now.
Zero ASP with regard to ferrite materials.
And zero ASP, go ahead.
Related to your Balin question, I've been using ferrites for choking off unwanted currents on the outer shields of coaxes. And what you want in that particular case is a material that is lossy. However, I have no experience in using the ferrite cores for transformers, and I would suspect for an RF transformer you would want a core that is not lossy. And I don't have any experience on that, and wondering if anyone else did.
MIC.
Mark, go ahead.
Only a little. Two more factors to consider. The first is saturation. How much current, how much magnetic flux are you going to be pumping through this thing? And that usually works out to what is the power level that you expect to run? 100 watts, 500, 1,000, 1,500. Commercial, like 50,000. Excuse me. The second is that different core materials will handle different frequencies, but you need to be very cognizant of what frequency you're planning to use, highest frequency. There are several good books, and if W0LEV is on, he'll remember them, and I'm going to go to my bookshelf and see if I can find the really good one.
Easier here for another quick comment.
A0CF, Ben, go ahead.
As regards to losses and stuff like that, yeah, that is true that these ferrites are dependent on frequency, but in terms of using it to making sure that you choke off, it's actually more of how the choke is connected to the line versus the actual material of the core. Basically, you're connecting the like either a high pass or low pass filter versus using it as a transformer device. Makes a bit of a difference as a easier to.
SP with a follow-up question.
Go ahead with your follow-up question.
KE0CF, I think Ben was saying that the losses are important in a transformer, but I think when you're using a choke, it's the losses that you depend on. When you slip a ferrite bead over a piece of coax, I think it's the losses that you depend on to provide the choke function. And I'm wondering if that's the wrong type of material to use for a transformer.
EMP.
EMP, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I think the book that Mark is looking for is Transmission Line Transformers by Jerry Sevick, S-E-V-I-C-K. That was an ARRL book. I don't know if it's still in print or not, but it's a very good book on transmission line transformers. Transmission line transformers, Jerry Sevick, S-E-V-I-C-K. To Terry's question, you can take a ferrite, one or more ferrite beads, and put them on the outside of a coax, or you can wrap a coax several turns through a ferrite donut or a toroid. You can do either one of those, and what you have there is you're trying to block common mode current on the outside shield, and you're making a bunch of inductance to that common mode current, so you're making a high impedance path. So it's not core loss that's preventing or giving you the choking action, it's high impedance to common mode current. In a transmission line transformer, you can take the same ferrite material that you used for your choke balun or your ferrite bead choke, and you run bi-filler or two wires side by side as a winding, and those two wires carry differential current instead of common mode current, and the magnetic fields cancel each other out, and it becomes a low impedance path for RF. If it's differential, it remains a high impedance path for common mode current, and that is, so you use the same core material, or can use the same core material for either application, but you have two different kinds of physics going on in the two different applications, and zero EMP.
MIC.
Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Greg. Sevick's book is indeed the one I was thinking of.
My bookshelf was closer.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions, comments, or additions? Please call now.
Hey, use yourself again.
A0CF, Ben, go ahead.
Well, speaking of losses, and if you want to try something, you don't have to use ferrite. You can use a solid piece of iron and see if that changes the operation. Unfortunately, I'm still very, very new to this because I haven't actually been able to get a transceiver to play with or anything like that. But instead of using ferrite, what happens if you use a iron core instead? That's extremely lossy to high frequency. Just high frequencies. Is it easier to
stuff I'm going to be playing with. Just recently started getting into a lot of HF again earlier this year. But I'll be playing around with a lot of stuff, trying different things. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, net control for this evening's TechNet. If we have any other questions or comments, please call now. If we have any other late check-ins for this evening's TechNet, please call now.
This is AE0GM, George and Berthoud.
AE0GM, George. Got you down. Do you have any questions or just a check-in?
Just a check-in. I do have a question, though, and that is, if you shorten an antenna, do you have to clip off the wire, or can you fold it back on itself?
I've always just, when I'm shortening it to tune it, fold it back on itself, twist it together. Seems to work. That's what I've always done. Anyone have anything that suggests otherwise?
MIC, either technique works.
Your ASP, as long as the wire is bare, if it is if it's shielded wire, not so much.
Thank you for that. Something else to consider. Anyone else have one last time any questions or comments for the net this evening?
AE0CF.
AE0CF, Ben.
Speaking of shortening by folding, that definitely is accurate. That if it's unshielded, or actually uninsulated, put it that way, uninsulated wire, yeah, folding it back on itself, it should be okay. It's basically looks like another splice. If you think about it, once again, if you have insulated or shielded wire, well, shielded wire probably is different, but if you have insulated single conductor wire, I don't know what it does if you fold it back. I think if you make it really, really neat, every time you fold back, it cancels itself out. You have a little gap there, and it'll cause some strange radiation pattern. And then if you fold it, I don't know, if you make a Z and try to, if you make a Z and in order to shorten it that way, yeah, I think that will actually might actually work okay if you make Z's. I don't know if anyone comment about that. This is AE0CF.
Your ASP with a comment.
ASP, go ahead with your comment.
wrong word. Insulated is the proper word. I was searching for it. If you make a fold over with insulated wire, you are really not shortening the antenna. You are really putting a capacitor at the end of the antenna.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. Any other questions or comments?
KC0Q8. Oh, let me turn your radio down, Jim. I've just been listening to this, and the questions about folding over a non-shielded wire, a bare wire, you fold it over, you're shortening it, and the width or diameter doesn't matter. The length is what matters, if I'm not mistaken.
That's my understanding also. The diameter, well, it does have some change in the way the wire acts, but the diameter, it doesn't have enough to really affect anything. The main thing is the length of the wire, from my understanding.
Man, that was a perfect double. And Jim won. The other station, go ahead.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, I think that's correct. If you fold things over with bare wire, make sure that it's you don't leave any gaps. Make sure you connect it as much as you can along the whole length of the folded section, which means you have to make really, really sharp turns when you double back over. Yeah, and this is also, I would imagine this is frequency dependent. It's probably not very good for you if you do these foldbacks, and probably splices too. It's easier to.
Yeah, I think we're getting way too technical over it, but yeah. Anyway, that was just my observation. Back to net. KC0Q8.
Any for that comment, Marty? But I'd like to thank everyone that's checked into this evening's net. I look forward to hearing from you next week. As a reminder, the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club net is Wednesday evening, early check-in starting at 6 p.m. That is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, net control for this evening's TechNet. The repeater is now open for general use.
Zero EMP, W0 ASP.
Hey, Terry.
I'd like to thank you for that explanation about the common mode versus differential mode in transformers and ferrites and other magnetically conducting materials. That kind of sparked a little revelation in my brain, and made me realize, oh yes, now I know that that the properties for a magnetic material would work equally as a choke as well as a core.
Well, it only took me 10 years for that light bulb to finally come on in my head, but now that it has, I can explain it to others, so I'm glad I could help in Zero EMP.
Well, this is why we have ham radio friends, because some things that are obtuse to me are absolutely clear to you, and I thank you for your explanation.
No problem. Glad I could help, Terry. Enjoy your, well, it sounds like it's going to be a relatively brief return to Colorado before you're off again.
Yes, I have to summer in Puerto Rico. No, this is not vacation. This is building antennas.
Okay, well, it's still a nice place if you're going to go do it. It's better than being in Antarctica this summer, which is winter there.
It could be worse places, and this is actually a really fun project. We're working on a scientific array for HF imaging, and we're building 40 cross dipoles over what's it about 300-meter field. So it's a big deal. It's a big project, and hopefully we can do some HF imaging.
Imaging of what?
Always figures that the amplifiers aren't good enough to do radio astronomy. So we'll be doing HF imaging of man-made sources. In particular, you of course know about heaters. Well, the Arecibo facility also has an HF heater. So the primary purpose is for imaging irregularities produced by the HF heater at the Arecibo Observatory.
Okay, so I'll be looking at the return off the ionosphere.
Roger, yep, ionospheric irregularities, and the heater is an illumination source, and other test transmitters can be illumination sources as well.
Oh, I'm going to look forward to seeing some images someday from that. That sounds kind of neat. I wonder if WWV might be too far away, but when a path opens up, that might be an interesting source.
WWV is a definite two-hop. We're more looking toward different sources in Puerto Rico. And they have things like CODAR radars, ocean surface wave radars that operate at HF. The Navy has an OTH radar there that could be useful, and I certainly have my ionospheric sounder there, and that's going to be one of the primary sources of signal for the imager.
Well, the HF OTH radar in Virginia should be one hop because of the angle they launch at. It should be one hop, and that shoots to the south. So that should be one hop from Virginia down to Puerto Rico.
After that, and the Texas one as well. In fact, this, yeah, I can say this on the air. In early June, there's going to be a heating experiment, and that the Navy is conducting, and their OTH radars are part of the experiment.
Oh, cool.
Don't hear it outside of Puerto Rico because they're operating at 5.1 megahertz, 5.2, just a little bit above the restricted band for WWV. At very high power, but the nature of the antenna beam. They actually have many, how many, 400, 500 kilowatt transmitters that are sitting in the reflector of the Arecibo dish, and those are making a beam vertically. So you have to be pretty close to the receiver or the transmitter to pick it up.
So it's going to be pretty much straight up and straight back down.
After that, unlike the HARP facility that can move its beam around through it's a phased array, the Arecibo heater facility is intended to go straight up and is constrained by the geometry of the reflector.
Well, I hope nobody flies through it.
That's an interesting point. HARP in Alaska had a rather sophisticated aircraft detection system that was tied to a cutoff valve or a kill switch to the high power HF, so that if any aircraft ever came near the beam, it would the transmitter would shut off. I'm not sure if the Puerto Rico system has such a fail-safe device.
Well, I just got to make sure I don't take any flights to the Caribbean in June.
KA0CT, come in.
E0CT, go ahead, you're a little scratchy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to into your conversation, but Arecibo telescope is restricted airspace to begin with.
I didn't know that. Thank you. That may be helpful.
Should be anyway. I was working on the island many years ago, and we were helicoptering from site to site. And one of the people that was with me said, "Hey, let's go see Arecibo," and the pilot, no, I can't fly this.
To the HF heating, they run a number of high-powered radars out of there, especially the in-current scatter radar and planetary radars for detecting meteors and not meteors,
Asteroids?
Thank you, Greg. Asteroids. It's been a long day digging Mediterranean sage on Table Mountain. My brain is tired. Yeah, they're detecting asteroids there with very high-powered transmissions. It would be a bad idea to fly over the observatory even on a good day.
Oh, you just reminded me with your mention of Table Mountain. You weren't here last month at NCARC. We all voted we're going to do field day this year on Table Mountain.
Go, plenty of room. Have fun. I'm not going to be here. I'll be in Puerto Rico.
Oh, we were counting on you being here to bail us out of jail.
But that is so funny.
Alright, well with that I'm going to get back to doing some work I was doing here before dinner and the net came around, so Good to hear you back, and I'll talk to you again. We're doing lunch Wednesday. We've changed the Wednesday lunch to the Breakfast Club in Loveland, 11:30. If you're able to make it, I know you're pretty busy right now being back, but we'll be there Wednesday, 11:30, N0 EMP.
Yeah, we had a double. Why are you going to be in jail, Greg?
For trying to do field day on Table Mountain at NTIA.
That's no big deal. I know somebody that owns a tower site up there. You're good to go.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, just go ahead. You'll be, well, heck, he'll probably be up there anyway, so he'll be good. All right, guys, have a good one. KC0 Killgate.
Alrighty, and Greg, yeah, I'm still with the radio club at the high school for another couple of weeks. They're just finishing off a couple of construction projects. About half of them are building a little low-power FM transmitter, and another half of them are building a shortwave receiver. And so we're kind of going through the whole business of how to construct and test something. And I'm still going to be busy with the radio club for another couple weeks. W0ASP.
All right, well, maybe before you take off again. Hopefully. Anyway, we'll catch you later. N0 EMP clear.
W0 ASP, this is K1 DEG.
DEG, W0 ASP. Go ahead, Mike.
Relayed a message to my brother to let him know that you're willing to assist and that you have the equipment that he probably is needing. Didn't mention to him that you have the experience and knowledge of being able to use the hot air. He doesn't have that experience, but y'all can work that out when he gets back in town.
Roger that, and yeah, my experience is not that much, and I just have to be properly caffeinated. Too little, and I'm too slow, and too much, my hands shake too much.
I understand that. Well, evidently you're going to be tied up during the day with the school stuff, so I'll just let him know that when he gets into town and stuff. But we'll get with you in the next couple of days when he gets in town. What it is he's got a plug that has an antenna attached to it, and the plug has broken off. A pin has broken off in a connector on the board. To replace the board is going to cost $900. So he is trying to replace and fix the issue without spending that extra money. Now, take in consideration, this is not ham related, but it is RF related, and it's dealing with some of his work stuff.
Okay, yeah, roger that. I'm still willing to help.
Figured you was. I just wanted to let you know what I could tell you, and he'll give you more information when he gets into town. All right, and I wanted to say thank you much ahead of time. But I'm going to lay the mic back down and get back over here to the sandbag. K1 DEG will be monitoring.
for that, Mike. I've got a pretty flexible work schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually the only bad days, but that's in general. And if you guys can show up here 10 o'clock in the morning, that's kind of the ideal time.
Sir, I understand, and we'll work out the details when he gets here to be able to give some more information, kind of thing. So we'll just leave it at that for right now, and then when he gets here, we'll get him to holler at you. K1DEG.
Roger, and plan half an hour for a tour of the shack, too, because you might be interested in some of the stuff that's going on here. W0ASP.
Yeah, I'm going to try and tag along. You know, I'm a little brother. I got to be there, right?
Oh, of course, as long as you don't annoy Big Brother.
He'll be all right. But, yeah. Anyway, I think I just caught what you were meaning, but anyway, yeah.
Could have many meanings. Okay, I've got to go to Mike, so at W0ASP, I'm going to be clear.
W2MIC, KC0, Killgate.
W2MIC. Go ahead, Marty.
Back to the conversation of AEDs and ambulances. That was totally false reporting. It didn't happen that way. They have monitors and everything, and a monitor is a shocking device, a body monitor device, and this thing, the patient collapsed right in front of the paramedics, and they had their monitor hooked up to him so fast it would make your head spin. And so what we were talking about yesterday is all negated. Negated. So don't be thinking that they don't have that equipment on board. And for anybody else that was listening to that, because I kind of thought, that's weird. But an AED is for basically, lay people that don't have training. They have the equipment and everything, and so therefore, our assumption that things were awry is pretty much wrong.
Copy. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, the world is right side up again. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been itching to tell you that all day long, because I talked to the person that was standing there and watched the guy go down, and long story, and I'll tell you later, but I just wanted to let you know that what we thought is not true. So, all right, I'll let you go and get back to the kitchen. KC0, Killgate.